Okay. Hey now, and how are you doing? I want to welcome you to the next episode of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat. Today's guest, Wendy, my friend Wendy, man, it's going to be so aligned with what's going on in my personal life, but also why we need to be proactive about our health. So I can't wait to really dive into it. Wendy, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, thank you. It's a beautiful day, and helps make everything better. So happy to be here with you, David,
Sure, the sun and the vitamin D, that alone makes us all feel better.
for sure.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start off by just saying that obviously 2 days ago I had a stent, and then we're doing the episode which really doesn't tie into each other than that we're gonna talk really and dive into the health part. So Wendy, and then we're gonna really turn it over to you. How did you start your health journey, and for what reason?
Sure. Mine was purely physical, purely weight related. I had was pregnant with my second son, and this was in 2000. And I was just to the point where I was frustrated. I had a difficult second pregnancy, and I knew in my soul that it was 100% because I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't moving because I didn't feel good, so I didn't feel good, so I wasn't moving, and I wasn't eating well, and all of those cycles that we all get into of like, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't feel good. And so I literally just told my husband, I've got to lose some weight after this baby is born, and somebody's going to have to help me do it because I knew that I was stuck in a cycle of doing something for a little while, but not following through when the results didn't come fast enough, that as fast as what I thought they should. And I just couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. I remember telling my sister-in-law, my diet's not that bad. I don't understand why I just keep gaining weight. Well, maybe we'll just forget the fact that the local pizza guy knew our order as soon as we called them.
Yeah.
So it's possible that maybe we were not, didn't have as good a habits as what we thought. So it started as purely a physical wanting to lose weight journey for me. But then once I got into it a little further and leaned into realizing that there was likely some more things going on, and it was likely more than just what I was putting in my mouth, that I had a lot of room for growth in how I was viewing myself, how I was showing up for my family, how I was preparing myself each day. Um, and once I realized that there was a lot more work I had to do there, that's where it got real. And that's where I kind of said, oh boy, this is more than just, what am I eating every day? But that's also the point where things really opened up for me and became a whole bigger journey.
Yeah, and that's usually what happens with a lot of people. They start recognizing because when you're honest with yourself and you start recognizing the symptoms of your body, our body does tell us a lot of things. When we're willing to listen to, and using my example of this most recent, yeah, I knew I needed to reduce weight. I needed to do all the things, but a lot of people wait till there's a problem. And sort of, I guess that's what I did. Is I was just naive. I didn't need any medication. I was fine. I was dealing with stress, and I knew how to do, the part of me. I knew how to do the spiritual. I know how to do the mindset stuff. But the wellness part, I've done well before, but I really failed on that, as well as my nutrition.
Mhm.
And I knew that, but I was like, all right, I'm fine. I'll get to that.
Mhm.
What would you say to somebody like, yell at Uncle Dave, yell at me? Um, because that's what it is. I mean, most of us are like that. It's not, really something that we all just like, yeah, it doesn't happen to us. As we get older, we still feel like a young person. I still feel 12. I mean, I feel great. A little more tired today, but other than that, there's no difference. What would you say to somebody like that?
I think it's a great question. And I think especially for somebody that's maybe like in their 40s, late 30s, 40s, and really they haven't had those real health scares yet. We can go on living a long time, like you said, if I'm fine, I'm not on any medication, it's okay. Yes, that maybe someday there's going to be something that happens, but I don't have to worry about that now. And what I would say is we really need to understand that the decisions that we make add up over time. And eventually, if we keep making, decisions that really aren't in favor of our physical health, eventually it will catch up with us. And thankfully you were able to notice those things and you were able to catch it. And so now you've had that wake up call of, okay, now I really do need to get serious about this. Sometimes it's not that easy, and sometimes people don't catch that before it really becomes a problem. And I'm not a medical doctor, but it's not that difficult for us to look around and, see our society and realize that most of us are just kind of ignoring this part of our life and hoping that it's going to be okay. And one of the things that I've learned in this journey, and one of the things that we really coach and help people understand, is that we really can't look at our society, unfortunately, and say, well, it's all going to be fine because those people are fine, so I'm going to be fine. We really have a very unhealthy culture. And just because somebody else is getting away with it doesn't mean that, we are too. And like you said, until it becomes that personal wake up call, you just think, oh, it's okay. It's going to be fine. Everybody else is living this way, so it's going to be fine. Well, it's really not. And unfortunately, we have a very unhealthy society. And it is possible to really thrive physically in your 60s and 70s and 80s, but it depends on what you do in your 30s and 40s and 50s in order to be able to do that. And so I think that we just have this vision of what aging looks like, and it's kind of a depressing vision because so many people, just that's how they live. But we can change the narrative. You don't have to, land in your 70s and 80s and be completely, physically incapable, or weak. It's possible to live a different way, but we have to be willing to kind of go against the norm and go against the culture that we have, and we can't start soon enough.
Well, that's a 100%. Luckily, again, with my situation, and I'm only basing it on my situation when I'm, but I am like the average person. My heart is good. My heart was strong. It still is, and really, other than the two arteries that were blocked, everything else is clear. So the doctor's like, if you start taking care of yourself, you're going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we all think, but it's always I'll stop the diet on Monday. We stop and I've always said start the diet Tuesday at 3 o'clock because you realize when it happens. What are some of the pillars? I know because I do know about your program, and I think it's wonderful and the wonderful work that you do. What would be, how do we start? So, how do we build the structure and for each person as an individual? We
Sure.
know that everybody's going to be different. Uh, but what are the pillars that we would start in terms of building a healthy structure for ourselves?
Sure. Well, what we really believe is that it first starts with realizing that you most likely don't need more information. I mean, some of us do, right? Like there definitely is absolutely value in working with a professional who is trained, whether it's in nutrition or exercise or whatever it is. And we have those people on our team, and I work with them and I use them for myself. But what I think is important for us, what we believe the starting point is really recognizing that you can't keep doing the same things over and over and expect different results. You can't keep seeing yourself as someone who struggles with this part of your life and think that all of a sudden you're going to be great at it just because you have the new thing that is the magic potion that's going to make it right this time. And so we really encourage our clients to start with looking at a little more inward and saying, who am I? How do I view myself in this part of life? What are the thought processes that are going through my brain? And recognizing where you are, because chances are a lot of us have less than helpful thought processes or views of ourselves in this area, and we continue to live in those cycles over and over. There's a lot of people who say I'm going to start on Monday over and over and over, but that Monday never really comes because they just keep going through this cycle. So we start by sitting down with our clients and saying, okay, this is where you are now, and that's okay. There's no judgment with that. But what does the healthy version of you look like? And let's paint a picture of that successful, healthy person who has accomplished whatever your goals are. And let's really ground ourselves in becoming that type of person. Because when the hard parts come, and they're going to for all of us. None of us are immune to stress in our life. We need to have that vision of who we want to be and how we want to live our life when this part of our life is a little bit more in order, so that we can pull back on that and say, you know what, I want to become that person who is the active mom with my kids, or the active grandpa who's really, coaching his grandkids' baseball teams, or whatever it is. We have to get clear on that vision, and we have to ground ourselves in that vision. So that's where we like to start. We definitely then, help people develop a plan, or look at what is your real life and how can we help you develop a system that works inside your real life. Because there's never a perfect week. Life never slows down. It never gets easier. There is not less stress. So we're going to be realistic about that. And we're going to say, okay, what works for you in the world that you are in now? And how can we make these things easier so that you can work on them a little bit at a time? And then we also like to help people take a look at their nervous system. I know this is definitely something, David, that you know about and that you help people with, but a lot of us, especially us high achieving women who are always on the go and can't sit down and stop and rest, speaking from experience, um, we're just in overdrive all the time. And we don't really realize how much that can affect our physical bodies and our mental health, because we're just on and we're just driving and we're just constantly maybe in fight or flight, but also maybe just in like overdrive. And our nervous system is not designed to live like that indefinitely. So we need to recognize that and find some ways to bring that down, make our body feel safe so that it knows that it's okay to create some changes and maybe release the weight or whatever it is. But I think that's a key component that I personally have learned a lot more recently, and I think that's important. And then we want to make sure that people have support, because, like you said, we can make these big declarations. We can say we're going to start on Monday, but if we just keep repeating that in our head and we don't share it with somebody else, it's a lot less likely that we're actually going to act on the thing. So we think community and accountability is pretty important as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. You need the people to root you on, and but also to hold you accountable when you don't keep up to those levels. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I put out that post yesterday. I
Mhm.
literally just came home from the hospital, and I was like, look, I want to tell everybody. I thought I was smarter than everybody, and I'm going to put out a post today because everybody was like, oh, I hope you feel better. I'm like, all right, I didn't communicate fully the message I want. Is like, hey, everybody needs to do this. I mean, here I am, 57, so I'm lucky that, I'm older not to not go through this, but there's lots of people who don't. And, I've learned this year. So I've been, this has been definitely a Dave focused year to make sure that I'm fine, healthy to get to where I want to go, because I have way too many things going on that I want to do, that I get to do versus that I have to do.
Mhm.
And that's, a really big part of things that really take us to that next level, is to know those things. We talk about it, and society does us no favors. They tell us all the time, you gotta this, you gotta keep up with the Joneses. And, where I've been sitting around with people and talking, even before this experience for myself, what do I really want? I'm very happy with my smallish house, and all the wonderful things I get to do. I don't need more. In fact, I don't want more. I don't want more clients. I don't want more things, because I'm not looking to have a 9 to 5. That's where a lot of entrepreneurs are messing up, because I don't want a 9 to 5. No, you don't want to be told when to show up at a place. A lot of entrepreneurs are still an employee. Just they
Mhm.
own the and in a lot of small businesses, they're the employee. So no matter what you own, you might take more of the profits than in a job where you would take just a salary, but you're really not doing yourself any favors by not taking care of yourself. And that's something that I've always been preaching. And I've mostly done it. I mean, I have to say, 2 years ago, I lost my job at Pfizer. I was my corporate America job, and I've been doing what I want to do. So, and life will throw challenges at you. So, what are some of the details for you, that how do we manage our stresses? How do we start that first pillar to know which one? A lot of times people go, there's just way too much to do. What's the first step that people should focus on?
Yeah, it's a great question because you're absolutely right. Way too many things to do, and if you overwhelm the system, you're going to quit. Because what's quitter's day, like January 9th or something, because people usually make it like less than a week or week and a half with their New Year's resolutions. So I think awareness is a big first part of it. Just realizing, okay, things can't continue the way that they are. Um, I personally think, because really in my life, the change happened when I reached out to somebody else and said, okay, please help me because I can't figure this out on my own. And they helped me figure out the first step. But even if you're not at that place, I would say, okay, you're aware that maybe something needs to change. And we would say, let's take a look at, what do you want this part of your life to look like? And maybe it's not going to be you're going to overhaul everything at one time, but maybe it's like, okay, you know, I'm really frustrated with my energy because I feel like I'm, giving my all to everybody all day and I can't keep up. And, I'm just stressed all the time and I'm just constantly feeling like I'm behind. Okay. So maybe we can take some steps to starting to recognize where are some of our energy leaks, where are some of the things that maybe we're running a to-do list in our brain too much and it's causing stress in a whole bunch of other places. I'd say let's find one thing that you can start to work on and start small with that. Because once that starts to get a little bit easier, then we can start working on the next thing, and start building those habits over time. Because as you start to remind yourself that you can do these things and prove to yourself that you can be successful in whatever area it is that you start with, then your brain starts to say, okay, yeah, I can do this. All right, yes, give me a little bit more because I now know I can be successful in this part of my life. Um, so I'd say start small, and then let's figure out what's the first best step that you can take, and then don't add to it until that part gets a little easier.
Yep. Yeah, start little steps and be prepared to be really bad at something that you want to improve on. So that's the message I always give out. You're going to get bad at it, but eventually you'll improve.
Yeah,
Speaking, all the things, even writing. A lot of people, oh, I can't write a book. Well, you can't with that attitude. But
right.
what we do is, can you write 2 sentences a day? That's all I'm asking you. Oh, I could do that. Okay, let's start with that, and you build from that. So I think wellness is also one of those things. Again, society pushes us. The perfect figures, the even the dad bods. Right? They don't show the overweight dad bods. They show somebody with just a little pouch, right? And you're like, okay, it makes those levels much more harder. Oh, I'm never going to get there. It's very easy to give up, and it's very hard to be sustainable. How would you suggest to somebody to be okay? One of the things I talk about is, hey, if you take 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards, that's still it's still a level of progress. What is a way that you would explain to somebody who might be struggling?
Yeah. We definitely like to help our clients celebrate wins as much as they possibly can. And again, I think that's where having an accountability buddy, or a coach or somebody is helpful. I remember a conversation I just had with a client a couple weeks ago, and she was down on herself a little bit because she didn't follow her eating plan exactly to a T over the weekend, where she had her soon to be daughter-in-law's bridal shower, and then it was Easter, and then she was moving her mother-in-law into an assisted living facility and then cleaning out her house. So she has some real life things happening, and she was kind of down on herself and said, well, I'm just frustrated because I didn't get enough water in. I know I didn't get my food in like I wanted to, and I'm just frustrated. And we talked through it, and then I said, okay, but did you make different choices than you would have prior to, starting this plan or starting to work with me? Oh, yes, absolutely. I absolutely ate better than I would have before. Okay, great. Did you, what would you have done normally if you would have had that one piece of chocolate? What would you have done previously? Well, I would have eaten a whole piece of cake and I would have just thrown it out the window and I would have said, okay, it's fine. So in that 5 minute conversation at the end of it, she was no longer feeling guilty about, oh, I did these things and I wasn't 100% right. She was excited and I could hear it in her voice. And she was saying, oh, okay, yeah, I did good. I did a good job. I made progress. It was better than what I would have done before. And that's where the power of having somebody else can be so helpful because it can be somebody else to help you get out of those, spiraling thought processes in your head because we've all been there and we all do that. And we all say, oh, I just ate this one thing, so I might as well go have the entire cake because what difference does it make? The day is, shot. So having somebody remind us that we are still making forward progress also helps to retrain our brain to have some different thought patterns around these things to help find the wins because we just need to keep finding those wins every single day that retrain our brain to think of ourselves as a person who does these things. And I think having somebody else around to do that is really helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And retraining our brain. I love that you mentioned that, because that's among the work that I do in helping people. I go, rewire, and it really is learning those things because all these things are patterns that we either see from society pushing us or things that we've experienced, fight or flight, you mentioned earlier. So a lot of that is the things that we've seen growing up, unintentional. That's why there's sometimes, those unconscious biases that we form because of the experiences we've had in the past.
Mhm.
And that's one of the hurdles. That's why when I do my intakes, that's one of the things I try to listen for, that active listening to
Yep.
try to understand that. So I know you do a lot of things, and I saw recently that you also support some charities. I don't know if you want to talk about that, any of the philanthropy that you do.
Well, we don't have any specific charity that we are attached to, but obviously, always wanting to give back and support others. And one of the fun things about networking that I've really loved is just meeting amazing people who are doing really wonderful things, and doing whatever I can to support them and their missions as well. And I think. What's the saying, all boats rise with the rising
Yep.
tide, like,
Yep.
just spreading the good message of positivity. I think there's so much negativity in our world that the more we can do to just support people who are living out their passion, really matters. And so I just try and kind of help people see the good things and see the light and find the small moments and not get stuck in the muck because it's really easy to do.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, no, I saw a post that you had done about growing hands, but where I was going to eventually leave that to, I do enjoy talking about philanthropy, but I also, the wellness. I mean, I have a book coming out that, helping helps too. So,
Yep.
when you show up for somebody else or in a situation of somebody who's going through something really difficult, I mean, look, even a post on Facebook, hey, this happened to me, and all those people, don't worry, you're gonna get through this, the wishes. That's for some people, that's a huge help.
Yeah.
So, and that was what I really, where I was leading with how does that fit into the wellness plan to remind people of the good things that have happened, then not, and to also extend themselves to your community, because I know you have a big community around this, around your wellness plan.
Yeah. Well, when I first reached my goal weight, I shared on Facebook just because I was excited. I had no intention of helping other people whatsoever. And then after I did it, I immediately regretted it because it blew up and all these people asked me what I was doing. And then all these people were reaching out and then they were congratulating me and saying, this is amazing. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Like, why did I share this? This is way too much personal information for me to be putting out there. And I was very uncomfortable with the idea of people looking at me as a role model or an inspiration. And I'm like, whoa, this is weird. This is too close. I don't want to do this. But what I realized was the reason that they were reaching out and the reason that they were so supportive is because they saw something about themselves in my story. And I've learned, over the 6 years or so that I've been sharing is that, you know, me being strong enough to be vulnerable really then helps somebody else see, okay, it's possible to create change. And, okay, maybe I don't feel so alone because she gets this too. And I continue to get messages on a regular basis of, thank you for sharing your story because, you helped me realize that I'm not alone and I can create some change in my life too. And I think in a world when we have such a loneliness epidemic, it's so important for us to be able to share some of that, you know, um, share some of our own stories because people are so disconnected with other people. And so if there's a way, whether it's through Facebook or more, better in person, but that we can help somebody else feel a little bit less alone, I think that's really important. And that's just really become my mission of share as openly as I can now, because even if it feels kind of uncomfortable, even if it helps one other person feel seen, that's worth it, because a lot of people are just really feeling alone. And unfortunately, when it comes to the world of health and wellness, we don't have a lot of great role models around us, most likely. So we have all these things going across our reels and our Facebook of like the supermodels, like you said, or the bodybuilders, and look at me at 10% body fat. Well, okay, so what does that do to our brains? It thinks that that's the thing that we have to achieve. Well, that's really not attainable for most of us unless we're really willing to accept a whole nother level of accountability. So I want to be able to show people, and we want to show people just real life and real people who are finding ways to prioritize themselves, despite the fact that we live normal lives and we have kids and we have jobs and we have things that we're doing, to try and make it feel a little bit more attainable, because most likely that bodybuilder that has the perfect body, that's not attainable for most people just because they don't have the time and capacity to be able to do that. But if we can show them the picture of, let's work this into our life in a healthy way, then we want to help people feel like that's something that they can achieve more realistically.
Yeah, and with that is to build a community. I mean, I think this past weekend you were with a small community,
Yep.
and how is that? Like being in the right communities. I mean, you and I met through Jose Escobar's
Mhm.
CLA, and I know you're also, I don't know if you're a member, but I know this past weekend you went to the Unleash You women's
Yep.
retreat. How is
Yep.
that? I mean, I've been to the men's retreat many times, and I know what goes on there. I'm not asking for, specifics, of course, but what does that community mean to you?
It was awesome. And what was so crazy about the whole thing was I really didn't know what to expect at all. But what I think is cool is that once you start to meet people and kind of understand the heart of a community, then you realize, oh, okay, you're going to find like-minded people as part of this because they're all coming together with this common kind of goal and heart of what they're doing. And so I really kind of thought at first, well, this is crazy because I don't know these people at all. And I'm going on a plane to go hang out with them for 3 days. What in the world did I get myself into? But it was amazing because it was all just women who were there who were trying to better themselves and trying to pour into each other, and who were all genuinely there just to love and be loved. And I know that what's cool about it is just I really don't even know all the things about what Unleash You does because I haven't gotten very connected into that very far. But I know that they do great things because I felt the heart of those people. And I know that anybody else that I meet, and CLA has been the same way. I know that Jose is intentional about how he's building his community, and it's a lot of great people. And I think that's pretty awesome when you start to find those communities that you can really dig into, just finding more and more good people to connect with. And that's why I think community is just so important, because maybe we can't always find those communities that are really important to us directly on our town. But there's other ways we can do it now. But I would also encourage people to look where they live, because that is really important. And chances are there are people who want to support you, but they're not going to find you unless you put yourself out there to go find them. And it takes some effort. And I know that's hard for people. But it took some courage for me to get on that plane and go down there and say, okay, well, I'm going to try this and see what happens. But I've learned that these things are usually worth it if you're willing to put yourself out there and go seek for the people that you know that you want to have in your life.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm a member of both, and I really love the Unleashed and the people. It really is that heart centered, and where in other communities I've been in, not that they're bad or like it, you'll find the right people,
Hmm.
and with Unleashed, it definitely feels the right people for me. They're just heart centered people, and we're all trying to do our best, and it's really nice. And the same thing with Jose. Uh, you know, getting to know Jose. In fact, the last men's retreat, Jose and I hadn't spoken to each other in a while. We, a couple of texts here back and forth, but I got to have some really good one-on-one time with him just to catch up as humans. And I think
Hmm.
that's what's really special is finding the community where you get support, where it's much easier to get support virtually now, but we
Hmm.
still need that human contact. If you would have done the women's retreat virtually, you still might have had a good experience, but there was something about sitting next to somebody and having that heart to heart, looking in somebody's real eyes, and like just saying, "Stop, let's have a hug." Depending on
Yeah.
what they were sharing, and I know how powerful that is.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does take a big step to be vulnerable. And that is a big part of my story too. We moved to where we live now, and I was very isolated. I was working from home. I had young kids, and so I wasn't connected with their school yet. And we were starting from scratch for all intents and purposes. We knew a few people here, but I felt very, very isolated. And that was hard. And that was really a problem for me being someone who grew up very connected to my community. And it took a while, but I really had to put myself out there and I had to get over the fear of asking for help, putting myself in a room where I could meet new people, rewriting the story that I'm not good at meeting new people and being, having some courage to go up to talk to somebody new. So it's not easy, but it's absolutely worth it because now, here locally, my husband and I have created wonderful communities within our kids' school, within our church. I'm part of this other group called Polka Dot Powerhouse. It's an amazing women's organization. But all of that started with me being really brave and saying, I got to go find some people and I got to go find some people that, will be good people to pour into me. Because that's not easy to do. And it takes a big first step to be brave to do that.
Yeah, no, and you should be commended for getting on a plane. Now, did you know anybody in the group? That's even more. Wow. I want to commend you for that because that's real bravery and trust. I don't know how much you've spoken to Michael or Dr. Vinny prior, but they really are. That was the one thing. And Michael will tell you the story. I had joined other communities and I was just watching Unleashed, and then he was like, always come for free, come to the group calls for free, and all that stuff. And then I went to the first Movement Maker live a couple of years ago, and I said, "I'm in. You guys are like I've been watching well enough, and I just didn't want to get burned again, right?
Mhm.
Having that trust, and now after your experience with the women's retreat, you now have new friends that you might never have met, and I don't know how close, and it's tough to build those, but I know some of the people very well who went this past weekend. They're some of the best people that you'll meet. I've known them for a number of years, and I have private conversations. So I hope you continue to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did have a moment because I talked to Michael and then I had a moment of what in the world am I doing? Am I really going to just go to this place with these people that I don't know at all? But then I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm going to trust that this is, for a reason and this is going to be a good thing. So it all worked out and I'm definitely glad I did it. And I absolutely know that I'm going to keep in touch with some of those women or all of those women and Michael, and that there was a reason that I was meant to be there, and I'm certain that I don't even know haven't scratched the surface of it yet. So
Yep.
it'll be
I
good. Mhm.
I will tell you, you have not scratched the surface yet.
Yeah,
It really. I don't think I've scratched the surface. I've been in the community for a couple of years at this point, and there's still stuff that I'm working through and trying to get through it. But having that level of family, and that's what they call each
yeah,
other family, and they mean it. A lot of people go, hi, you're my brother, you're my sister, but they really mean it, and been lucky for that. So, with all of this, if I heard you right, we need to create those pillars. We
Yep.
need to also make sure that we find the right people, the right communities, give back a little bit because, we all, because that helps too. We're running up on the hour, and what's one final message? What I explain to people is let's go to the magic garden. I'd love to plant a seed in the audience. What's a seed that you would like to plant that they can grow or we can help support growing?
Yeah. What I would say, I think, is just know that change is possible. And if really in anything, but obviously my business is and what I really feel called to help people with is their physical health and their mental health, because I think those two things are really tied together, and our spiritual health is really important too. But I think a lot of people run kind of with this thought process in the background of like, oh, I know this is something I need to do, or oh, I know this is something that I'll get in order, and yeah, this is important, but they never really get to it because it feels hard. It feels overwhelming. It feels like there's too many things to try and figure out. Um, so I guess, maybe two things. One is listen to that voice that says it's time to make some change, because this really is important. If you want to live a full life that is you're able to show up for everybody in your life to the fullest capability, you have to have the physical vessel that is in good enough shape to be able to withstand that. You have to treat yourself well. You have to fuel your body. You have to sleep. You have to make sure that you're not overstressed, because we can't keep living on overdrive forever. So, yes, this is important, and it's not vanity, because we do really have to take care of ourselves. And once you're able to conquer some of these things, it can release so much capacity to be able to do so many more things. I was just talking to a woman the other day, and she said, I just don't want to think about this anymore. And I totally get that, because I'm the same way. Like, it was like so much was released from my brain when I was no longer having these routines of like, oh, this is something I have to try and figure out. Oh, when am I going to go to the gym? Oh, what am I going to eat? If you just get some of these things in place and you're able to build these habits that become part of who you are, who knows what you're going to be able to do with that extra capacity that you are no longer draining because you're constantly feeling like this is something you should be doing, but you can't get to. So listen to the little saying in the back of your mind that's telling you that maybe it's time to do something different, because it's never too late to create change. And it does matter in how we show up in our life, both now and in the future. And just start, and just get started with a little bit at a time, because eventually you're going to be able to make great progress, and you have no idea what that's going to open up for you in the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's really you create the better alignment and you get more bandwidth in your life and what do you do with that? That's you know the really special part. Well,
Absolutely.
thank you. Well, how can say everybody can get in touch with you and to learn more about the things that you do and the support that you offer?
Absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, Wendy Hushon. It's a pretty unique name, so you should be able to find me there. Our website is called uplevelwellness.org. And we've got a Facebook community where we love to just support other people and pour into them, and share valuable insights and things. But love to connect with any and all people who have kind of reached that moment of saying, okay, yep, it's time to make some change last this time.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and I know my change has lasted, and will last further with our friendship, and I can't wait to see you a little bit more, and maybe at one point we'll actually meet physically, either through
Absolutely.
CLA or you'll come up to the White Room up here in New York. It's not too far from Philadelphia, from Pennsylvania.
Yep, absolutely. That'd be fun. So thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you. And as we round up, I'm just going to want to really make sure that I have one last message, and the message is take care of yourself. So that's going to be one of my messages that I'm going to make sure that I push out with every platform I have is if you think you're fine, let a doctor check you out. Medicine's for us. And then my regular message is, take that find your sweet spot. And when you have your sweet spot, go swing for the days. have the boundaries, and I hope you all the happiest and healthiest of days. Thank you. And that's it.